Chris, end of a year, end of an era.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a difficult decision to make. It's one you don't really want to have to make, and I suppose the sad fact is that you have to make it. You can't go on forever, and being lucky enough to be in control when you make that decision was important for me, and when you know it's the right decision, it makes it a wonderful decision and a lot easier and better to stomach. So I'm celebrating the fact that I've had a wonderful career. I'll continue to play for Edinburgh for at least this year, with an option of a further year, but I won't be playing for Scotland anymore.
I guess significant, important rather, to point out your decision. You've consulted with several people, family members, obviously Andy and Gregor in the international ranks, but ultimately your own decision, and that's the way it really should be, given what you've put into international rugby over 12 years.
Yeah, that was important to me, and also the fact that I didn't want to go on too long. I didn't want to be just hanging on any longer. The big goal for me was a World Cup. I was managed to reach that, and I thought then that would be me, I'd retire, but the way the World Cup went, I thought, maybe I can do another Six Nations, but the time's just been too long between that last game in Auckland and the next game in February. So it's it's sad, but it's also wonderful that I am able to make that decision and celebrate it like this.
And obviously now focus on the club game. You're still with Edinburgh through to the end of the season, possibility of an extension beyond that. I think again that is pretty much in your own hands. So it's not a case of you're stepping away from the playing side of the game completely, far from it.
No, not yet at all. I think Edinburgh, we're really excited about what's happening, and we're going really well, especially in the Heineken Cup, and we want to continue that for the rest of the season. I'll work as hard as ever, but it's time for me to step down from international rugby, and on the flip side, as a 20-year-old, I wanted an opportunity, and there's a lot of good young players out there in Scotland, as well as some seasoned internationals still fighting for that position that I've been lucky enough to hold recently. So if I can help them in any way, shape or form, I will do, and I desperately want to be involved in Scottish rugby and help Scottish rugby in any way I can in the future.
And now you're talking to the young players coming through. Can you see some of the qualities that helped you get onto the international radar and set you on your way, going back to 1999, the position you were in then?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You can see it in the drive. It's difficult for young players now. They come through and they're not exposed to as much rugby as I was. They're not playing as many games, as I did say with Gala, for example, and in the Cup. And I suppose that the club game isn't as intense maybe as it was then. I had the opportunity to play against Brian Redpath and Craig Chalmers when they were playing at Melrose, Rob Wainwright when he was playing at Dundee, and these guys, the young guys coming in, have to learn that through training, and they have to be up to speed pretty quickly for the professional games they play in. So it's a difficult role for them, but there's a lot of good ones out there.
Yeah, and looking at your own international career over those 12 years, you amassed 109 caps, played in 4 World Cups, had success in the Kolkata Cup, of course, record points tally. You've always set yourself targets throughout your international career, winning that first cap, winning a second cap, trying to make a half-century cap, so on and so forth. You've all these wonderful successes that you can sometimes touch and look at. But one thing as well that's hugely significant is the relationship you've had with the Scottish supporters, particularly at Murrayfield.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. It's been fantastic. I still get goosebumps, and I'm still somewhat embarrassed sometimes at the accolade and the roars and the cheers I've had, and I can't thank them enough. It's a lonely time, international rugby at times, and it's a difficult time, but with that support it makes it a wonderful, wonderful place to be. And all I've wanted to do is make them proud. All I've wanted to do is throw myself at it 100% and try and do the right thing at the right time to make them proud. And hopefully I've been able to do that. They've certainly made me pretty proud of the reaction they've given me. And
as a supporter in early February, returning to Murrayfield to watch the first of the Six Nations.
Absolutely. I'll be obviously playing with Edinburgh probably on the Friday night or the Sunday, but I'll certainly be here. And, that's when it'll hit home, when you are here as a supporter watching. But I'll wake up the day after probably less sore than I would do if I was playing, so I've got that to look forward to.
And finally, perhaps between now and then, dusting down a few items in the attic of the garage to put on display in the house?
I think so. I think it's about time I looked into that and maybe got 1 or 2 of my jerseys framed and put up just as memories. But I think it's sitting down with your teammates and your friends and your family and coaches and some of you guys that have been involved along the way and chatting about it. It'll be some nice memories as well.
Gregor, hugely significant day for Scottish rugby, the end of an era for the most capped international player in the men's game, certainly.
Yes, and it's a time to celebrate what Chris has done over the last 12 years now as a Scotland international player. Tremendous ambassador for the game, with his dedication, his professionalism, but also the way he conducts himself off the field. And we've had so many great days with Chris in that blue jersey.
You will know as well as anybody what it's like when you've finally come to the point where your international career is at its end. You make the announcement, you move on. You've been in his shoes today. It'll be a difficult time for him because he's achieved so much in the dark blue of Scotland. Absolutely,
and what he's done to achieve that has been the drive, the professionalism, the hard work to improve. And going through his mind the decision on retire, he would have felt, I've still got that same drive, so why would I want to give it up? But once he's made the decision, I think he's relieved that he can now concentrate on finishing his playing career with Edinburgh. And it is a tough decision. He'll not enjoy watching this year's Six Nations, not being able to play, but what a fantastic career he's had. So 12 years at the top is unparalleled in the professional era, and all those caps, he's got a lot to look back at.
But I think it's important, it seems to have been his decision. And he will have consulted people, possibly yourself, ahead of making this announcement, but the fact that it's his decision, given what he's achieved, what he's put into the game as well, and the timing of it's quite significant, given the fact you alluded to the Six Nations just around the corner, chance for perhaps a new breed of young players that are making a name for themselves to come through and stake a claim for the jersey.
That's true, and Chris came back from the World Cup having played at 15 against England in our last game and playing very well. So I'm glad, and he's probably reflected since the World Cup. He's not rushed into a decision saying that's going to be my last game after the emotion at Eden Park of losing that game. So he's had time to reflect, see where he is in terms of his body, his ambitions over the next year or two, and he's came up with a decision he's comfortable with and very happy with. And it does give an opportunity to other players. Now we've got a gap at 15, and there's players there putting their hands up already, from likes of Rory Lamont, who played during the World Cup, to younger players that are coming through in that position.
And also, as from Chris's own point of view, I think his contract's up at the end of the season with Edinburgh. He has the option of an extension. He can now very much concentrate on getting back to full fitness and continuing to play, because clearly he still loves to play the game. But at 34, as he turned 34 in March, with every increasing year, it becomes a bit harder to remain at the very top.
It does, and certainly the game's getting more and more physical, and the way Chris drives himself at training, he's always there doing extras, and that does place a huge burden on the groin area and the quads of all the kicking he does to get the level of what he's got. But he's enjoying his rugby. When you see him at training, he's got a smile on his face, and the way the Edinburgh are attacking, he must be loving that performance at the weekend against Cardiff that Chris was heavily involved in. He's still got a lot of rugby left in him.
But his contribution finally to international rugby over 12 years has been huge, it's been immense, and he leaves a tremendous legacy.
Oh, he does, and it's a real positive legacy that for Scottish rugby, and that young players coming through can look at what he's achieved, and the way that he's achieved that by working hard in his game, always wanting to improve, but also the amount of young players that must have taken up the game that were inspired by Chris, by what he'd done on the field. But if they ever came across Chris, signed autographs or been involved in a training session, Chris had always time for these players. So he's left a legacy, and I hope it continues, that he can be involved in Scottish rugby in some way moving forward, because he's got a lot to give on the field just now, and then once he finally does hang up his boots off the field.
And of course, you also wore the maroon of Gala. You'll have a sense of pride as well, seeing one of your own, as he is a borderer as well, of course, coming through and having done so well.
Yeah, I was very proud to see Chris come into the Scotland team, to play alongside him and see him first hand how good he was operating in that heavy traffic of test match rugby. And then it was a great achievement when he got that 100 caps, and to think about it, that day they got a terrible injury, probably the worst of his career, and he's came back and shown the character and the durability that's needed, and playing really good rugby last season after such a bad injury.